Yo, what is up, guys? Today I am going to talk about the recent Damian Lillard to the Bucks trade. So this trade happened today. As you can see on screen, we have Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee with Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson going to the Suns. Jrue Holiday going to Portland, Grayson Allen going to the Suns, and DeAndre Ayton and Toumani Camara going to the Blazers. Yeah, very weird. I don't know why I said it that way, but as you can see on the screen, this is the pretty much the big deal going through. The Blazers end up getting Jrue Holiday and DeAndre Ayton pretty much for Dame. The Suns ended up getting Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen and Nasir Little and Keon Johnson. And then Kamara is also going to the Blazers. I wanted to talk about this deal because this is some pretty big news going on in the NBA. I think that with this trade, it kind of turns the Milwaukee Bucks into slight favorites, actually, in the East. So taking a look at their current roster, they obviously have Giannis as well as Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. Going into a couple more years for each of them. Bringing in Damian Lillard is definitely going to put them back into the upper echelon of teams. So past couple years, obviously, the Bucks have been good, but they haven't been as good as they were whenever they won the championship in 2021. And ever since then, I mean, this summer, the Giannis has kind of been on a campaign saying hey, I'm trying to get better. Is the Bucks trying to get better? And if they aren't trying to get better, I don't know if I want to stay. So that's what's going on. And I think that this move kind of puts, like I said, I think this puts the Bucks into probably the best team in the East. You obviously have the Celtics, who picked up Porzingis in this offseason, so they're still in the upper echelon. But honestly, past them, you have the 76ers and potentially Cleveland, since Cleveland did pretty well last season and they kind of just got better over the offseason. But I still consider Milwaukee Bucks to kind of blow out the rest of the teams. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, one thing I really like about this deal is we already know Dame can show what he's worth in the playoffs as well as the regular season. I think that this can push the Bucks to being the top team again in easily going to the NBA Finals. Now, the Celtics are also going to be right there. I'm going to bet right now that it will be Celtics Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But another thing I wanted to talk about with this trade is kind of how well the Suns did. I think the Suns kind of sneaking into this trade is a huge thing, pretty much. Mainly because they were able to move away from DeAndre Ayton. I mean, Ayton, there was so many issues going on the past couple years with Ayton and the coach and ownership and stuff like that. So it's just smart to get away from that player, especially because you kind of went through a rebuild. Not really a rebuild, because they obviously were fourth in the West last year, but they did get rid of Chris Paul. They picked up Bradley Beal. They obviously caught Kevin Durant last season. So it's kind of smart to get away from a player who was still developing. I want to say that because I think the DeAndre Ayton could potentially be a great center, but he wasn't right for that team, at least in my opinion. I think with him going to the Blazers, that was really good on the Blazers to pick up a player like that for Dame. Now, obviously, there probably were a few better packages that were available. Jrue Holiday has 2 years left on his deal, the second year being a player option that he's most likely going to accept because it is $40 million, and I don't think another team is going to offer Jrue Holiday $40 million over any amount of years. Well, I mean, they could. I mean, Jrue Holiday is one of the best defensive point guards in the league pretty much, but he has stated, I think, according to Kenny, KOT4Q, he did state he wanted to retire at the end of next season. I never saw that, but obviously I'm going to believe Kenny. So I don't really know what the like the Blazers aren't really getting anything from Jrue because they're not going to be like in the upper echelon of teams next season. But I do really like picking up Ayton because Ayton's only like 25, I think. So it's really nice for them to pick up a player like that because, things could happen. He could blossom and he could become like the center that we all thought he would be whenever he was drafted. But regardless, I kind of like this for the Blazers. I watched Kenny's video on like the quick rundown right when Dame was traded, and he said he didn't really love it for the Blazers. He wanted to love it, but he didn't really love it. I am not upset with it. So we obviously knew Dame wanted out. Dame had a short list of teams that he was going to play for, and the short list was literally just the Miami Heat. But I think that trading him to the Bucks with a player that already is like in a win now mode, a team that's already in a win now mode, I can't see Dame doing anything but being like, okay, this is also a great opportunity for me. So I think that the Bucks ended up coming away with like a great deal. I think the Blazers could have got something better, but like trying to trade Dame to any other team, like a lot of the other teams who had the availability, like I think the Raptors were like going to try to make an offer for him. They weren't going to like go past the hump with Dame in comparison to like other things that were going on in the offseason and stuff like that. Like they didn't really pick up on too much, but I think that him going to the Bucks is a great deal, and I think this is probably one of the best offers that the Blazers could get. Obviously, Dame is the best player in franchise history, but that doesn't matter at all to anybody else. Like, they don't really care that he's the best player in Blazers history because he hasn't done anything for this new franchise, and, like, he is 33. He's going on 34. He is going to be paid $39 million next year. Like, it's just, like, this could potentially be the best offer that the Blazers were able to get. And I think being able to pick up a player like Deandre Ayton, who hasn't been the best, like obviously he was great in like a few playoff series. He was great throughout like the first couple years that he was here, and he had so much like potential, and we haven't really seen it too much in the past. Like we haven't really seen as much potential as we'd want, if that makes sense. But I do think that him going to the Blazers can change that, get him out of the spotlight a little bit, because the Suns obviously were one of the top teams. They had Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul. But going over to the Blazers might be really good for his career. The Jrue Holiday deal, like picking up Jrue Holiday, I think that was just kind of like the Blazers getting somebody else who they could potentially trade at the deadline. And we could see a team like the Lakers or somebody who's just trying to make a run, who's might be like middle of the pack, just trying to pick up somebody who would be able to push them into that top tier. And Jrue Holiday would be perfect. I mean, like I mentioned before, I'm already like sung his praises. He's one of the top defensive point guards in the league, even with being 33 years old. He's a great defender. He would be better than like 90%. I don't know what would that math be? He'd be better than like 75% of the starting point guards that are currently like in the league. So yeah, I could easily see the Blazers being able to get something from Jrue, and you kind of just have to add that into the deal at the trade deadline. So I think right now, like obviously it's like kind of a half deal, but like it could be a full deal. Plus they could keep him throughout the offseason and get something in the or keep him throughout the season and get something in the offseason. They don't need to trade him at the trade deadline. For the Suns, going to them, now this is also a pretty good deal for them. I think this is a good deal for all three teams involved. Now, other people might think the Blazers didn't get the best deal, but I think people are trying to equate Dame being the best player in Blazers history too much because, like I said, other teams aren't going to care for that. They're like, what can Dame do for us now? Yeah, he's been able to drop 71 points. Yeah, he's been able to lead the Blazers to the Western Conference Finals in a stacked Western Conference. But, like, what can he do for us? Like, if he was to go to the Heat, obviously, I think that was a great position for him to go to, like the Heat. I think that would have pushed them into being like the top team, or one of the top teams, I should say. But I think him going to the Bucks is a great thing. But going back to the Suns, getting rid of DeAndre Ayton's like $35 million per year, and picking up a decent center in Yusuf Nurkic, picking up Grayson Allen, I think that was the best thing that the Suns can do. Because if you take a look at the Suns roster, you have the top 3 going in there, but after that, it's like you wouldn't really have any idea. I mean, they did have Damian Lee, they got Yuta Watanabe, but like Eric Gordon, like a 35-year-old Eric Gordon, they didn't really have anything other than like DeAndre Ayton. And DeAndre Ayton was always the one out. Like everyone pretty much this entire offseason was like, what's going to happen to DeAndre Ayton? But picking up Yusuf Nurkic and like Nazir Little and Grayson Allen, that just gives bodies to like the rest of the roster, and also can bring in a little bit of defense or whatever is needed from those additional players, because they needed that. They really needed that. So I think that this was a great deal for pretty much all 3 teams. I think that potentially the Blazers couldn't find a better deal than what they got. They do want to obviously move forward with the roster that they have. I think that they still have a couple pieces that would be amazing trade bait, either this offseason or this trade deadline, or potentially like a couple years from now. I already mentioned Jrue Holiday. DeAndre Ayton could potentially stick with this core for the future. But you do have players like Jeremy Grant, who, when he signed that extension, or he signed that offer from the Blazers, we all were like, okay, this is an overpay. Like, that's exactly what a lot of people were thinking. It was an overpay. There's no way that like Jeremy Grant is going to be able to keep Damian Lillard on the team. Like, that's not like the type of player that the Blazers should be going for. But I mean, if a team for the next 4 or 5 seasons, if a team is needing a good wing, if a team is desperate for somebody to be, come in and be a player that Jeremy Grant kind of can fit the mold of, the Blazers might be able to snag more assets for Jeremy Grant. They might be able to snag some more assets for Jrue Holiday, like I mentioned. They're pretty much building around Scoot. I love Scoot. I think Scoot is going to be a great player. We don't know, obviously, yet, because he is like a rookie coming in. But they have a lot of assets. They also have Matisse Thybulle, who has been great for the past few seasons. We have a lot coming up for this next few years, and the Blazers had to do something with Dame. They couldn't just let him sit. They couldn't let him not report to training camp. So I think that the Blazers ended up with a pretty good deal for what they had. I think the Bucks are now probably in the upper echelon of the league. And I think the Suns came away with great assets that could help them win now. So I think it's one of the most equal trades that they could have made. And I don't know. I really like it. I like it for all 3 teams, and I could definitely see all 3 coming away with some positives from this trade. I don't think anyone got fleeced. I don't think the Blazers got fleeced. I love that the Suns kind of snuck in, and obviously the Bucks are now got Dame to pair with Giannis, and that could be one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire league. So let me know what you guys think. Go ahead and leave a comment down below what your opinions are on this trade, and what do you guys think of what's going to happen with the Bucks, what's going to happen with the Blazers, what's going to happen with the Suns. Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.